Hey guys, it's Madison. In my last video, I talked about how I was making a Japanese boot camp or kind of intensive language program plan for myself. I kind of broke down why I was doing it and what I was planning on doing. So if you're curious about all those details, go ahead and check out my last video. But in today's video, I'm going to go ahead and kind of break down the results of that language boot camp. This boot camp lasted for a total of 12 days, and I'll just go ahead and briefly discuss each day what I did. And also, spoiler alert, in the middle, my family got a new puppy, so stay tuned for overloads of cuteness. But yeah, jumping right in, the first day was Wednesday, December 15th, and this is the day that I went over in detail, kind of vlog style in the first video, so if you're curious about this day, go ahead and check out that video. But just a brief recap of what I did, I spent a total of 7 hours and 6 minutes studying, and 2 hours and 21 minutes of that was Japanese. Day 2 was Thursday, December 16th, and on this day, it looked very similar, honestly, to the very first day. I did basically all of the same activities. I just spent a little less time watching content in Korean and Chinese, so my overall time was a little bit lower, but my Japanese time was on par with the first day, so I was still pretty happy. Day 3 was Friday, December 17th. And on this day, again, I did mostly the same activities as the first 2 days. One major change that I did do is that instead of doing targeted speaking practice, I decided to stop doing that. And instead, that day I spent some time working on the NHK provided Easy News, reading some of that. So again, had a pretty similar results in terms of time spent on just overall languages as well as Japanese specifically. Day 4 was Saturday, December 18th, and admittedly, I did a little bit less on this day. There wasn't really any particular reason that this happened. It just so happened that I was feeling a little bit lazier on that day, and therefore didn't get as much studying in. But the good news was that I did spend a majority of that time on Japanese. Day 5 was Sunday, December 19th, and this was the day that I spent the least amount of time on languages, I think. I was driving home to visit with my family for around a week for Christmas. But the main reason that I didn't get that much done language-wise on this day is because this is the day that my parents kind of spontaneously decided to get a puppy, and so they brought that puppy home, and therefore almost the entire day was spent, number one, having fun just looking at how cute the puppy was, and number two, being a little bit overwhelmed by how much attention puppies need. Day 6 was Monday, and even though I didn't get any footage of myself studying because I was distracted by the puppy Zoe again, still I was able to kind of get back into my boot camp / intensive language self-study program on this day. Tuesday, once again, I didn't get a lot of footage of myself studying because, again, distracted by our new dog, but I did manage to get a little bit of studying in, not too much, but thankfully most of it was Japanese-oriented. Day 8 was Wednesday, December 22nd, and it was on this day that I decided that if I was going to get any footage of me studying, I would have to drag the puppy along with me, and so that's what I did. She hung out with me as we studied. Mostly she just slept while I studied, to be totally honest, and I was really able to get much more into my original groove, doing a lot more of my activities that I was originally intending to do, and had a pretty good day on this day. Day 9 was Thursday, December 23rd, and I had a pretty good day on this day, got a lot of studying done, and a good chunk of it was in Japanese, so I was very happy with that. Day 10 was Friday, December 24th, Christmas Eve. Since it was Christmas Eve, I spent most of the day kind of just hanging out with family, doing things with them, but I still managed to get some studying in, as you can see here. Saturday was actually Christmas, and so I definitely did not spend any time worrying about taking any footage, but I kind of did chill at the end of the day and spent a good chunk of time just watching some dramas that night, so I still managed to get quite a lot of time in, and almost all of it was Japanese focused, so a very chill day, but still managed to get some stuff done. And then the last day of the challenge was Sunday, December 26th, the day after Christmas. Honestly, this day I didn't put a ton of time into language studying. Again, we were kind of hanging out together as a family, playing some of the games that we got for Christmas, and just chilling with the dog, so it was kind of a low-key day, but I still managed to get a little bit of studying done just in my downtime. But yeah, that was the entire 12-day challenge in a nutshell. Overall, I spent 52 hours and 15 minutes in languages over these 12 days. And if you break down by language, that's 11 hours and 53 minutes in Korean, 16 hours and 36 minutes in Mandarin, and 23 hours and 46 minutes in Japanese. So I'm very happy with how much I got done, and I'm happy to see that Japanese did take first place for hours spent in the language, since that was my focus language during this time. Honestly, most of those Mandarin hours are just watching TV shows anyway, so honestly I kind of wish that there was a little less time in the Mandarin column and a little more in the Japanese column, but overall I'm still very satisfied. If you break it down by a day, I spent an average of just under 4.5 hours per day in my languages, although I definitely had a couple days that were much higher, and I definitely had a couple days that were much lower than this number. And then looking at Japanese in particular, since it was my focus, like I said, I spent almost 24 hours over the 12 days in Japanese. And if you break it down by active and passive studying, active study time was just over half of that, so 12 hours and 50 minutes, whereas kind of the passive, just watching dramas or anime or variety shows, was almost 11 hours. So I was pretty happy with that. During this boot camp period, the most time I ever spent on a language in a day was 7 hours and 21 minutes. And that was on that first Friday before I came home and was distracted by fun things like my family and puppy. But I am pretty proud of that. That's almost a full day of work. Of course, some of that was fun things like watching dramas and stuff, but still. And then the least amount of time spent on languages in a single day was 1 hour and 51 minutes. As far as Japanese specifically, the most time I spent in a single day is 4 hours and 10 minutes, and again, super happy with that. The least time I spent on Japanese in a single day is just a mere 7 minutes, but again, that was the day that I was driving home to start my Christmas vacation, and we also got a puppy, so I don't really care too much about that one kind of outlier. So overall, am I happy with how these past 10 days went? Definitely yes. Obviously, I could still nitpick and find flaws, but honestly, I'm not going to nitpick myself too much. I got a lot of studying done. I got a lot of language exposure, and so I am very happy. Probably the biggest thing that I'm happy about is that before this challenge, if you look at my language tracking notebook, you'll see that it's mostly Chinese and Korean stuff, and then every day just 1 or 2 very small Japanese studying things. But after I started this challenge, you can see that it very much shifts, and it's almost all pink, which is the color of Japanese in my notebook. So I definitely had that shift in focus much more towards Japanese. So I'm very happy with that. And hopefully that can continue at least somewhat into the new year. But yeah, that was my boot camp this past week, as well as an introduction of Zoe, our new puppy. But yeah, that's pretty much all I had to say for today. So until next time, annyeong.